أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كلا إن كتاب الأبرار لفي عليين كلا إن كتاب الأبرار لفي عليين وما أدراك ما عليون وما أدراك ما عليون كتاب مرقوم يشهده المقربون إن الأبرار لفي نعيم على الأرائك ينظرون تعرف في وجوههم نضرة النعيم يسقون من رحيق مختوم ختامه مسك وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون كلا إن كتاب الأبرار لفي عليين وما أدراك ما عليون كتاب مرقوم كتاب مرقوم كلا إن كتاب الأبرار لفي عليين وما أدراك ما مرقوم كتاب مرقوم يشهده المقربون إن الأبرار لفي نعيم على الأرائك ينظرون تعرف في وجوههم نضرة النعيم يسقون من رحيق مختوم يسقون من رحيق مختوم ختامه مسك وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون ومزاجه من تسنيم عينا يشرب بها المقربون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا أيحسب أن لم يره أحد ألم نجعل له عينين ولسانا وشفتين وهديناه النجدين ألم نجعل له عينين ولسانا وشفتين وهديناه النجدين فلا اقتحم العقبة وما أدراك ما العقبة فك رقبة أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة يتيما ذا مقربة أو مسكينا ذا متربة صدق الله العلي العظيم. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
فلمن صلي على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you, Brother Mustafa Al-Ali, for that amazing recitation of the Holy Quran. Inshallah, Brother Mustafa will be with us throughout the nights of Muharram. So I implore you to come on time so that we can benefit from his amazing recitation. Please help me in thanking him with the loudest of your salawats ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Just another small request, if you can please come as forward as possible. There's still a lot of people coming, and there's a lot of people that are sat in that corner. If we can come as far forward to your right, to my left as possible. Please recite the loudest of your salawats, stand up if you can, and come as far forward as you can. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. A little rundown for the rest of the evening, inshallah. Following this, we will have some recitations by Brother Muhammad Abbas Kareem. We will then have our lecture from the esteemed Sheikh Abbas Panju, followed by Ma'tam, which will again be led by Brother Muhammad Abbas Kareem. And inshallah, we will also have Brother Ammar al-Nashid for the final 5 nights. We also have for any children some creche facilities just outside the doors and upstairs for any children aged between 4 and 12. Please sign up your kids for the classes if you think they'll benefit from them, and make sure you're here before 7, as that is the entry deadline for them to be here. Please recite aloud salawat. I would now like to invite Brother Muhammad Abbas Kareem to bless us with some recitations of the Holy Ahlul Bayt. Please welcome him with the loudest of your salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
بارے دیگر نعرہ صلوات. My dearest brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before I begin, just to show appreciation for the Mohebban Society and my dear brother and friend Raza Naqvi for their kind invitation. It's an honor for me to be here. In the first couple of nights, as we do traditionally, there'll be a few words of fadail before I come on to the salam. Inshallah, mera saath dijiyega. Baraye ta'jeel zahur imam zamana baaz buland salawat. Narae takbir, narae risalat, narae haidari, haidari, haidari. Bar Muhammad wa ale Muhammad bulantar salawat. वो नूर जिसको शहे मशरक़ैन कहते हैं, वो नूर जिसको शहे मशरक़ैन कहते हैं, उसी को नूर खुदा नूर ऐन कहते हैं। बिखर गया तो वही नूर कायनात बना, सिमट गया तो उसी को हुसैन कहते हैं। हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले हैं। मिलके पढ़े बुलंद आवाज में, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले. And for those of you who don't understand Urdu, Hum Hussain Wale is very simple. We are the people of Hussain. Buland awaz mein, Hum Hussain Wale hain, Hum Hussain. MashaAllah. ये हमारी किस्मत है, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले हैं। हमसे फातिमा ज़हरा कर चुकी है एक वादा, हमसे फातिमा ज़हरा कर चुकी है एक वादा। अब हमारी जन्नत है, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले, हाँ हम हुसैन वाले हैं। हम बताते दुनिया को, हमसे पूछती दुनिया, हम बताते दुनिया को, हमसे पूछती दुनिया, गम में कितनी लज्जत है, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन वाले हैं, हम हुसैन। या अली की मिदहत है, या हुसैन का मातम, या अली की मिदहत है, या हुसैन का मातम। हर नफस इबादत है, हम हुसैन वाले हैं। हैदरी शेर देखिएगा। खुल्क है मुरव्वत علم و فن ہے، حکمت ہے، خلق ہے، مروت ہے، علم و فن ہے، حکمت ہے، خون میں شرافت ہے، ہم حسین والے ہیں. مل کے پڑھیں باوا سے بلند، ہم حسین والے. ماشاءاللہ. ہم حسین والے ہیں، ہم حسین والے ہیں. بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. آخر میں بالکل اختصار کے ساتھ مصائب کے چند شعر پیش کر رہا ہوں. اے چاند محرم تو ہی بتا، خاتون کا چاند کہاں ہے؟ آباد ہے دنیا ساری، آباد ہے دنیا ساری، مگر زہرا کا چمن ویران ہے. اے چاند محرم تو ہی بتا، دیکھا نہ سنا زاہد ایسا، زخموں سے بدن ہے چور، مگر جاری ہے زباں پہ ذکر خدا، جاری ہے زباں پہ ذکر خدا، گردن پہ خنجر رواں ہے. اے چاند محرم تو ہی بتا. اور کہتی تھی سکینہ عابد سے، اس قید میں مر جاؤں گی. کہتی تھی سکینہ عابد سے، اس قید میں مر جاؤں گی. چھوڑو نہ اکیلا بھائی، چھوڑو نہ اکیلا بھائی، مجھے اندھیرا بہت زنداں ہے. اے چاند محرم تو ہی بتا. اے کوفیوں میں ہوں بنت علی، اور وارث چادر زہرا کی. اے کوفیوں میں ہوں بنت علی، اور وارث چادر زہرا کی. دیکھو نہ تماشا شرم करो, देखो न तमाशा शर्म करो, अब ज़ैनब सर उड़िया है, ऐ चांद मुहर्रम तू ही बता, खातून का चांद कहाँ है, आबाद है दुनिया सारी, आबाद है दुनिया सारी, मगर ज़हरा का चमन वीरान है। बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलावत।
Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One final request, because once the Sheikh starts his lecture, we don't want to interrupt him. Can I please get the brothers to stand up one last time? Come as far forward as you can, because we are running short on space. Please recite a loud salawat, stand up and just come as far forward as you can. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you to Brother Muhammad Abbas Kareem for that amazing recitation. We are truly blessed to have him for these nights of Muharram, for these nights of Azar. Just a couple of housekeeping rules before we call the esteemed Sheikh on to deliver his lecture. In the case of a fire, there are 2 fire exits, one right at the back and one at the back here. The assembly point is in the car park. In terms of entrance, the main entrance, please don't enter from the main entrance. Come towards the back and from the sports hall, just here, and then come through into this way. Just the crash facilities, I know a few sisters came down because the link wasn't working, but the link and stream is now fully functioning. If you just go through the stairs here, upstairs, and all the way to the last classroom, that's the crash facility. So if anyone with kids would like to use that, the stream is now fully working. Inshallah, you'll be able to benefit from the lecture from there as well. The Sheikh requires no introduction. He has been to Mohebban before, but just a slight introduction in Sheikh Muhammad Abbas Panju, who graduated from the University of Ottawa with a bachelor's degree in finance and international business. He completed the Muqaddimah and the lower Suta level studies at Hawza Zainabiyya in Sham, and he is currently pursuing higher studies in the advanced principles of jurisprudence and theology in Hawza Ilmiya of Najaf al-Ashraf. Sheikh Panju was a financial consultant for a Shia TV channel and served as a resident alim in London for 6 years. And Sheikh Panju has addressed majalis in English over the last 12 years in 15 different cities across the North America, Europe and Africa. So we are truly, truly blessed to have him. Please welcome him for the first night of his lecture series with the loudest of your salawats. Ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله بارئ الخلائق الأجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء، حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء، حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما ولي الله الحجة ابن الحسن صاحب الأمر والزمان. اللهم صل على محمد روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وعلى غاصبي حقوقهم وعلى منكري فضائلهم من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. آمين رب العالمين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة. يا غريب الغرباء، يا مظلوم كربلاء، السلام على من جعل الله الشفاء في تربته، السلام على من الإجابة تحت قبته، السلام على ساكن كربلاء. فيا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي، يا سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، قال مولانا إمام جعفر بن محمد وهو أصدق الصادقين لفضيل: تجلسون وتحدثون. قال: جعلت فداك. نعم. فقال الإمام: إن تلك المجالس أحبها، فأحيوا أمرنا يا فضيل، فرحم الله من أحيا أمرنا. صدق الإمام وآمنا به. نوروا مجالسكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. A second of your loudest salawat in order to hasten the reappearance of Maulana Sahib al-Amri wa Zaman. And a third salawat louder than the previous one as a token of pledging your allegiance to Imam al-Hussein and your voice reaching Karbala on a night like this. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajal. Hadith al-Sharif with which we begin the majlis for tonight is a conversation between Maulana Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq and his companion Fudail ibn Yasar, where the Imam initiates a conversation with Fudail and he says to him, do you gather and do you have conversations? Do you speak about hadith? Do you gather and do you have conversations about hadith? Tajlisun wa tatahaddathun. Fudail replies back, and the context of this hadith is that the Imam is asking Fudail, do you, Shias of Ali Muhammad, gather together in a majlis and do you speak about our hadith? Fudail replies back and he says, Ju'iltu fidak, may I be sacrificed for you? Yes, we do. Imam al-Sadiq replies back by saying, Inna tilka al-majalis uhibbuha. Indeed, these majalis, where the Shias and our lovers gather together and speak about hadith, these are majalis that are beloved to me. I, as the divinely appointed Imam of Allah, love these gatherings. The Imam then goes on to say, فَأَحْيُوا أَمْرَنَا يَا فُضَيْلَ. Revive our affairs. أَحْيُوا أَمْرَنَا. Revive our affairs, Ya Fudail. فَرَحِمَ اللَّهُ مَنْ أَحْيَا أَمْرَنَا. May the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompass those who revive our affairs. Our discussion for tonight, inshallah, is based around this hadith. And the goal is that, inshallah, understanding these words of Ahlul Bayt and understanding this hadith of Imam as-Sadiq will lay the foundation and set the tone for the next 60 to 75 days of Azah, which you are about to welcome on a night like this. It sets the tone for you to maximize your spiritual progression and sets the tone for you to achieve the doors of paradise that are open from now until the 9th of Rabi'ul Awwal. And it sets the tone for you to nourish yourselves to be able to fulfill the purpose of your existence and be from amongst the first rank soldiers of Maulana Sahib al-Amri wa Zaman. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجا. For in regards to analyzing and understanding this hadith and the conversation of Imam as-Sadiq and the Fudail, or the conversation that occurs between Imam as-Sadiq and Fudail, we have three primary points of analysis. Number one, what constitutes a majlis as per the standards of Al Muhammad and the standards of Imam as-Sadiq? Is every gathering which is put together under the guise and under the invitation that it is a majlis of Imam Abu Abdullah, is every majlis a majlis accepted by Al Muhammad or no? There are certain criteria, there are certain standards, there are certain guidelines that have been mentioned to us by the A'imma. What are these guidelines and what is this definition of a majlis that is beloved by Imam as-Sadiq? Number one. Number two, what does it mean when the Imam says these majalis are beloved to me, and may the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompass those who revive our majalis? What does this mean? Number two. And number three, what is the direct impact of being part of a majlis Husayni? Insha'Allah, within these three dimensions, we begin the majlis for tonight with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You find that when it comes to the definition of a majlis, Imam as-Sadiq says to Fudail, "Atajlisun wa tatahaddathun?" Do you gather together and do you speak about our hadith? And Fudail says, yes. Imam goes on to say that this majlis and this gathering is a means through which our affairs are revived. فَأَحْيُوا أَمْرَنَا, revive our affairs. Meaning that the primary goal of a majlis is to revive the affairs of Ahlul Bayt. Tayyib, how do we revive the affairs of Ahlul Bayt? You find that Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil faraja, once in a conversation with his companions echoes the sentiments of his grandfather Imam as-Sadiq, and he says to his companions, Rahimallahu abdan ahya amrana, may the mercy of Allah encompass upon a slave who revives our affairs. The companion asks him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, and how do we revive your affairs? The Imam says, أَيَّتَعَلَّمْ عُلُومَنَا وَيُعَلِّمُهَا النَّاسِ. Reviving the affairs of Al Muhammad revolves around learning the knowledge of Al Muhammad, number one. And number two, teaching the people around you the knowledge of Al Muhammad. So from here we understand that the first criteria set by Imam as-Sadiq and Imam al-Ridha in regards to a majlis which is accepted as per the standard of Imam as-Sadiq is a majlis that propagates the teachings of Al Muhammad. Meaning teachings of Al Muhammad, Ahibba'i, can be categorized in very simple terms into 5 or 4 categories. Number one, a majlis Husayni is a majlis through which you learn the seerah of Al Muhammad, the history of Al Muhammad. A majlis Husayni is a majlis where you learn about your aqidah and your usuluddin. The third aspect of a majlis Husayni is for you to learn the ahkam of your deen as per the teachings of Al Muhammad, fiqh, number 3. Number 4 is for you to learn akhlaq such that you may spiritually purify yourselves and your nafs. And number 5, raddu shubuhat, to be able to learn the art and have a glimpse of the methodology through which you are able to defend the principal tenets of your faith against daily doubts and misconceptions that are showered upon us like rain from the sky. How do you defend your faith in the most eloquent of manners? For you find that these 5 dimensions are encompassed within this element of the knowledge of Ali Muhammad. And from here you learn, Ahibai, that the member of Ali Muhammad has a certain sanctity that is attributed towards it. The member of Ali Muhammad is not a platform for anyone to come and give you theories about life and philosophy according to Confucius and Oprah and Fulan and Tillan. Abadan la. This is not a platform to promote the ideologies of the enemies of Ali Muhammad or the books of the enemies of Ali Muhammad. This is a platform through which the ilm of Ali Muhammad is to be used to illuminate this world. Number 1. Number 2, when the Imam says, revive our affairs, it means from the mimbar, build a bond with the listeners and with the lovers of Ali Muhammad. Give them a platform through which you are able to help them build a bond of love and loyalty with Ali Muhammad and the Imams. The mimbar is not to be used as a platform through which the core principles of imamat or nabuwat are doubted upon and the superiority of Ali Muhammad is brought down to the like of normal human beings. This is not a majlis that is loved by Imam Sadiq. It could be a majlis, but not a majlis that is loved by Sadiq Ali Muhammad. When it comes to the knowledge of Ali Muhammad, this knowledge has to be taken from the pure sources. And as we will see, inshallah, over the coming nights, when it comes to solving global problems, be it at a political level, at an economic level, at a social level, at a personal level, at a spiritual level, there is no school of thought other than the Shia school of thought that can give you solutions towards progressment for the dunya and the akhirah. And the minute you start to take lessons of life and lessons of success or spiritual growth from other than Ali Muhammad, you open the door of destruction and misguidance for yourself. And you find that Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ruhi lahu al-Fida, narrates this and makes this very clear for his companion Kumail. And what do we know about Kumail? Inshallah, all of us are from those who recite Dua Kumail or a part of a Dua Kumail on Thursday nights. Kumail reached the status where he was trusted with the secrets of Amirul Mu'mineen. Kumail is that one person Amirul Mu'mineen entrusted him to be the one who will distribute this grand dua to the rest of the followers and the lovers until the end of time. Kumail was one of the appointed governors of Amirul Mu'mineen during his apparent khilafah. How did Kumail reach this grand level of perfection? Amirul Mu'mineen says to Kumail, "La ta'khudh illa anna takun minna." Ya Kumail, do not take and do not seek, attempt to begin or embark upon a journey of seeking knowledge from anyone except from us. The purest fountain of knowledge and wisdom that emanates from underneath the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is embodied within Ali Muhammad, and we abandon this pure stream to drink from other streams. Number 1. build and shape every aspect of your life based on the teachings of Ali Muhammad and see how you flourish. And the majlis becomes a platform and a point of inspiration for this. This is one. Mimbar and the majlis that is beloved by Imam as-Sadiq is a majlis through which the ilm of Ali Muhammad is propagated from. One. Number two, what does it mean when Imam as-Sadiq says, "Inna tilka al-majalis uhibbuha"? What does it mean when he says that these are majalis that I love? What does it mean when the Ma'soom Imam says, I love a certain act? It means that this act is desirable to the Imam. And if it is desirable to the Imam, it is desirable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the Imam is a manifestation of the pleasure and the happiness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and his anger is a manifestation of the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For when the Imam says that a certain act like the gathering and the majalis are beloved to him, meaning it is desirable. If it is desirable within the deen, when a certain act is desirable in the deen, there is a hukum shar'i that is attached to it. So for any given act, the hukum shar'i, the fiqhi hukum, for something that is desirable, will translate itself as being either mustahab or wajib. And depending on the intensity of the desirability, the hukum keeps moving from istihbab until it reaches wujub. Tayyib. If a certain act is desirable as per the sharia, there must be an infinite wisdom, as a result of which it is desirable within the sharia. The wisdom behind the desirability is that this act is desirable because it plays a crucial role in your spiritual perfection and in this journey of attaining the peak of perfection. In order for you to fulfill the purpose of your existence, it is absolutely crucial for you to engage in this act, and as a result of it, it is desirable. And if you understand this, we begin to understand that the majlis of Imam al-Hussein, Imam as-Sadiq says, it is beloved to me because this majlis is one of the most powerful means through which you can attain spiritual perfection. There is no greater faculty of worship other than a majlis Husseini, through which the seeds of inspiration are planted in your heart. There is no greater source of inspiration that will allow you to break yourself from the imprisonment of materialism and superficial behavior other than a majlis Husseini. You will find the most powerful part of your being within you is when you are in a majlis Husseini, and particularly when you are weeping for Imam al-Hussein. Entum shofu, see, over these coming 10 nights, over these next 60 days, 75 days, monitor your conscience and your nafs, and you will find that when you are weeping for Imam al-Hussein, and when those tears pour down your cheeks, this is when you will feel your purest. The closest you can get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is at that point. And if you understand this, you find that Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam also outlines that one of the most important aspects of a majlis, in addition to propagating the ilm of Ali Muhammad, is for the tears to flow in a majlis. In a majlis where the tears flow is a majlis that is beloved by Imam as-Sadiq. Because in the same narration, if you refer back which is mentioned in Biharul Anwar, volume 44, for the version that I have, the 14th hadith. In this conversation between Imam as-Sadiq and Fudail, Imam as-Sadiq says to Fudail, فَرَحِمَ اللَّهُ مَنْ أَحْيَا أَمْرَنَا. And then he goes on to say, فَمَنْ ذَكَرَ أَوْ ذُكِرَ عِنْدَهُ. If, and our tragedies, if a person recalls our tragedies, or he is made to recall our tragedies, فَخَرَجَ مِنْ عَيْنَيْهِ مِثْلَ جِنَاحِ الذُّبَابِ. And in this tragedy of Imam al-Hussein, when it is being narrated for you, even if a tear as minute as the wing of a fly begins to form in your eye, Imam as-Sadiq says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives the person all his sins, even if they were as much as the foam that collects at the ocean beds. Ahibbai, a majlis Imam al-Hussein, a majlis that is beloved to Imam as-Sadiq, is a majlis that has masa'ib, and a majlis that has tears, and a majlis that is dominated by grief. Do not take for granted a masa'ib. Do not take for granted the recitation of a marsiya. Do not take for granted the nawha and the matam that happens at the end of a majlis. Do not take for granted the shabi and the alam and the ta'ziyah and every other symbol that connects you with Imam al-Hussein. Because the word that is used by the Ma'soom Imam is ahyu amrana. Ahyu meaning what? We translate it as being revive our affairs. The word in Arabic is ahyu, yani give life. Simulate the tragedy of Karbala to the extent that it is as real and as alive as it is happening today and in front of you. Which is why you find that the hukum shara'i from a fiqhi perspective in regards to removing a ta'but and having an alam, and the ta'but and the alam having a level of sanctity and respect, is built on this hadith of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. For when that ta'but comes out, it should be inside of your mind. When this ta'but of Imam Ali al-Akbar comes out, it is supposed to be in your mind. Today we have a ta'but in that we are paying respect to show, Ya Aba Abdullah, had we been there in Karbala, we would have helped you bring back the body of Ali al-Akbar back to the Khaymaga. Symbols that allow you to relate and to engage with the tragedy of Ali Muhammad need to be maintained in the highest order without any sort of compromise. Ahibbai, youth of Manchester, I've had the honor to be at your service for many years before this Muharram. And it is a responsibility, as you have been, alhamdulillah, fulfilling this responsibility over the years, to never ever apply the brakes when it comes to the Majalis Imam al-Husayni. And my kalam khasatan, shabab, the matamis, nawha khans, do not wait and do not put in your mind that our matam and our nawhas begin on the 5th of Muharram and on the 6th of Muharram and on the 7th, and we have big nights and we have small nights. Ahibbai, there is nothing like a big night and a small night. The tragedy begins from today, the time of Salatul Maghrib, as you will see in the Masa'ib. فَإِنْتُمْ shabab matamis, do not compromise on your halkas and do not compromise on your matam. Be at the forefront to pledge allegiance to Sayyid al-Shuhada and to exhibit your grief. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam says the tears form a vital part of that majlis that is beloved to him and in turn beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If we understand the fact that a majlis is dominated by ilm and the majlis is dominated by tears and masa'ib and matam and nawha in all its aspects, and that these majalis are desirable because the sharia ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put forward a divine wisdom that these majalis are crucial in our spiritual or for our spiritual growth. We now come forward to the third element. What is the direct consequence of these majalis? Understand the value of this farsh aza that each and every one of you are seated on and have taken the pain and the effort, وَجَزَاكُمُ اللَّهُ أَلْفَ خَيْرًا, to be present over here. In fact, before we go to that point, let me complete the point of desirable. If you pause this thought, I go back. We said that when the Imam says a majlis is beloved to me, and may the mercy of Allah encompass those who attend the majlis, we said the first understanding is that this hukum is desirable, and it is desirable because it plays an important part in our spiritual progression and perfection. Number one. Number two, when a ma'soom imam, when Imam as-Sadiq says to Fudayl, inna tilkal majalisu uhibbuha, when a ma'soom imam says that I love these majalis, it means that this majlis Husayni, as per the conditions and as per the standards that we have outlined through the words of the imam, when the imam says I love these majalis, it means that these majalis deserve the special attention of the imam. The special attention of the imam. Do you know what that means? Ahibai, it means that the masoom, pure, divine imam lends, and I use these words very carefully, lends a glance towards you. Do you know what it means when the Waliyullah and the Hujjatullah fil ard looks at you? The poet says, while addressing Amirul Mu'mineen, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you are that one person, if you were to look at dust, that dust would turn into gold. For if you were to look at me, my heart would turn from a heart of an impure sinner to the heart of the purest of saints. It is this glance from the Imam Zaman of your time when you attend a Majlis Husayni that induces the highest, most powerful level of inspiration within you. It is this merciful glance of the Imam towards you that then opens up your conscience and tells you that I need to change my life. I need to be more compliant in my life. It is this merciful glance of the Imam towards you during a Majlis Husayni, as a result of which hajat are accepted and the bala are taken away from us. How many millions of people from the time that Imam al-Husayn was martyred and majalis have been held, how many millions of people? And it will continue until the day of judgment. Their hajat will be accepted because they attended the Majlis Husayni. Believe me when I say to you that a Majlis Husseini is the keys of paradise, and the keys of paradise were embedded within the Madhlumiyat of Sayyid al-Shuhada. I may have mentioned this to you or to some other Shabab time back. Within our faith and within our belief system, the world of dreams play an important part. And there is a fine distinction between a ru'ya sadiqa and a ru'ya kadhiba, dreams that are true and meaningful and dreams that are not true and not meaningful. Just like the dream of Nabi Yusuf, just like the dream when the suns or when the stars prostrated for him, and the dream of Nabi Ibrahim, and again the dream of Nabi Yusuf when he was the governor. It is narrated and it is relayed by our grand ulama generation after generation that there is not a single aspect of a Majlis Husseini except that the reward for this is written with Jannah. For at that time it is narrated that there was a non-Muslim who was a trader trading in Basra. And as he was trading from his faraway lands, his ship sank. And he was stranded in Basra without any capital, without any money, waiting and looking for a means to return back to his homeland. And it so happened that the time at which the ship sank, it was the beginning of Muharram. For the Shias of Basra were all leaving towards Karbala to go to Karbala and pledge allegiance to Imam al-Hussein on the 10th day of Muharram, on the day of Ashura. For as the men were leaving, this non-Muslim asked for permission and he says, "May I come with you to Karbala?" They accept. Who would refuse anyone to go to Karbala? They all traveled together to go towards Imam al-Hussein. They reach Karbala on the night of Ashura. This person who is a non-Muslim says, "I felt that I cannot enter into the shrine of Imam al-Hussein because as we were walking, they were explaining to me that there are rules of tahara and there are rules of najasa, and I felt within myself a certain level of humility and I could feel the aura emanating from the shrine of Imam al-Hussein. So I didn't enter into the shrine of Sayyid al-Shuhada, but I felt so attached towards him. I said to the rest of the traders and the businessmen who I had traveled with in this hamla or in this kafila from Basra to Karbala, I said to them, as you go in to pay your respects and pledge allegiance to Imam al-Hussein, let me serve you by taking care and gathering your slippers. I will take care and watch over your slippers." You've seen sometimes you go to the haram of Imam al-Hussein or to any one of the atabat, there, because of the traffic that is there, there is no space within the shoe boxes. He said at that time there were no shoe boxes. He says, "I will take care of your slippers." 150 people, they are traveling together. The man sat outside the haram of Imam al-Hussein, taking care of the slippers of this Zawar. That night, the scholar who was present with them sees in a dream that Imam al-Hussein has commanded the angels to descend down upon earth and to record the name of everyone who cried for Imam al-Hussein or who visited Imam al-Hussein or who performed azah for Imam al-Hussein. Write their names in a list, for I have recorded for them paradise for eternity. The angels come down on earth, record all the names, and they go back up. This is the value of a Majlis Husseini that you are in. Imam al-Hussein looks at this list and he says to the Malaika, "You left behind Fulan the non-Muslim." Shuno yani? What does this mean? The one who is serving Imam al-Hussein, even the person who arranges the shoes in a majlis and takes care of the slippers of the Zawar, does not escape the glance and the attention of Imam al-Hussein. Any small aspect of service that you do in the majlis of Imam al-Hussein does not escape the attention of the Imam, Sayyid al-Shuhada. Your participation in the majlis Husseini is within the knowledge of Imam al-Hussein, and you gain the attention of the Imam. You organize the majlis, you gain the attention of the Imam. You contribute towards a majlis, you gain the attention of the Imam. You lift a carpet, you put a black cloth, you put a banner, you did anything, you spent your fuel to come here. Nothing escapes the glance of Imam al-Hussein. And know that this Imam that you have come to mourn is the most gracious of Imams, such that if you want to understand the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is manifested within Sayyid al-Shuhada. Every act of yours does not go unrewarded. Understand the value of these majalis that you are attending. The direct consequence of a majlis Husseini. Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi goes on to say, من جلس في مجلس يحيى فيه أمرنا لم يمت قلبه أو لم يمت قلبه يوم تموت القلوب. The one who attends a majlis in which our affairs are revived, يعني ilm and masa'ib of Ali Muhammad, Imam al-Sadiq says that person's heart shall not die when the rest of the hearts are dead. Ajib. What does this mean? There are three interpretations to this. Yawm over here, according to some of the ulama, is translated as your time on earth. Meaning that so long as you attend the Majlis Husseini, your time on earth, your heart shall never be dead. What does it mean when you say your heart shall never be dead? Over here, the heart means that faculty of intellect within you that allows for the faith to settle inside of it. When you believe in something, there is a filtration process that happens. Not everybody who reads ilm has iman and yaqeen. There is a filtration process. You read, you process with your mind, with your intellect, and when that information, you believe in it, it settles deeply in your heart. It is this faculty within you that allows iman to reside within you. This aspect, if it is corrupt, every other aspect of existence is corrupt. For Imam al-Rida says, so long as you attend the Majlis Husseini, your ability to accept faith is always open. Which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within the Quran in Surah An-Nahl goes on to say, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ تَبَعَ اللَّهُ على قلوبهم وسمعهم وأبصارهم وأولئك هم الغافلون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sealed their hearts and their eyes and their ears, and indeed those are the people of ghafla, meaning that there are certain people on earth, no matter how much you try to guide them, they are irresponsive to guidance. No matter how much you try to invite them towards religion, the heart is just not responsive to guidance, is just not responsive to deen, is just not responsive towards a moral etiquette. And if I find myself in that position, Imam al-Rida says, attend the Majlis Husseini because it allows you to accept the light of guidance within you. Don't close the doors of guidance upon yourselves. This is one. Number two, The tail end of the hadith where the Imam says, the one who attends a majlis through which our affairs are revived, his heart shall not die on the day that all the other hearts are dying. The ulama come forward and say the second interpretation of the day when the hearts will die is during sakaratul maut. The final moments of your existence in this life before you transition to a brand new realm of existence called Alam al-Barzakh. This process of the separation of the ruh from the body, ahibba'i, is very scary and is very painful. It becomes the ultimate battleground. If you feel that life is difficult, I don't mean to scare you, but we need to educate ourselves of what is going to happen in front of us. And we got to be prepared based on that. If you feel that the challenges of life are difficult, if you think, Allahu Akbar, it is difficult to be a practicing Shia in the 21st century, if you think that this jihad of abiding by an Islamic Shia-oriented lifestyle is difficult, Habibi, you have a grand battlefield waiting for you on your deathbed. Because that is the final battleground where Iblis will exert and Shaitan will exert absolute maximum pressure upon you to abandon Allah and Ahlul Bayt. Every day Shaitan is whispering in our ears to disobey Allah, to disobey Ahlul Bayt. That whispering only becomes more tempting and more powerful on deathbed. Hadith Sharif says Iblis comes, is the master of deception. He comes to a person on his deathbed and he says to him, look at your wealth, who is going to inherit your wealth? You spent 30, 40, 50 years of your life earning this wealth. Your stocks, your bonds, your bank account, this, that. You're going to leave for these people, your children, who will not even recite a Surah Fatiha for you after 1 year. He says to him, look at your wife, look at your spouse. You're going to leave them so that they can get remarried to somebody else? That dying person says to Iblis, well, what should I do? Because now he plays with your sentiments. This affiliation and this love of life and love of family. I'm not saying it's wrong. But Shaitan's job is to manipulate your love. The dying person says to Shaitan, what should I do? Shaitan says to him, do sajda towards me, and I will bring you back to the dunya. Ajib. The person says, I'm in my deathbed. I can't even speak and communicate with my family members. How am I going to stand up and do sajda towards you? Shaitan says, no problem. I'm paraphrasing what happens in the hadith. Shaitan says, no problem. I am merciful towards you. I am lenient. You don't have to do a physical sajda in front of me. Just blink your eyelids, accepting me as your Lord and you doing sajda towards me. This is sufficient. The person blinks his eyes, Allahu Akbar, his soul leaves, and the last thing he did in the earth is kufr. None of us can be free from this. What gives you that eternal strength and that divine power at the point of death that Shaitan does not manipulate you or manipulate your love for your family or the love for the dunya? And I say love for the dunya, halal love for the dunya. The one who has a haram love for the dunya, ba'ad, oh, Allahu Akbar, is in a different valley. How? Imam al-Rida says, this Majlis Husseini, through which you have wept for Imam al-Hussein, will ultimately end up being your savior on your deathbed. Because the Imam goes on to say, Hatman Shabab, Hatman bila fail. When you go home tonight, Bain al-Qawsain, you know the nights of Muharram is after Maghrib. And I say this to myself before I say to any one of you. Doesn't mean because the majlis is finished with Salat al-Maghrib, I go home and I have Netflix and life goes on like normal. La, la, la. Asal musiba is during the night time. Hatman, when you go back today at home, refer back to Kamilu Ziyarat. It is translated in English and available in PDF online. Hatman, refer back to Kamilu Ziyarat, chapter 32, in the version that I have, and hadith number 281 or 292. It's a hadith, the chapter is the rewards for crying for Imam al-Hussein. And look at the conversation that happens between Imam al-Sadiq and his companion Masma'. He says to him, "O Masma', for you who have grieved and wept over Imam al-Hussein, know that at the point of death, you will see my fathers appear in front of you. On your deathbed, Amirul Mu'mineen and Imam al-Mujtaba and Imam al-Hussein and Sajjad and Baqir and Sadiq and Qadim and Rida and Jawad and Hadi and Askari and perhaps Imam al-Hujjah are at your deathbed." And Imam al-Sadiq says to him, "For you who attended these majalis and wept for my grandfather Imam al-Hussein, you will see my grandfathers, yani the Imams, you will see in your deathbed how the Imams are commanding Malakul Maut to be fragile and gentle with you, and he shall exhibit towards you more mercy than a mother exhibits towards her newborn child." Tell me, at that point in death, when you have Amirul Mu'mineen by your deathbed, telling Malakul Maut to treat you with the utmost mercy, is there anyone who will fear death after this? The key for reaching to that spiritual maqam is the majlis of Imam al-Hussein and the tears that are wept for Imam al-Hussein. And the last, I shall summarize this because I'm aware that our time is also short. The third point or the third interpretation, لم يمت قلبه في يوم الذي تموت القلوب. And this is the preferred interpretation by Alama Muhammad Baqir al-Majlisi rahmatullah alayh. He says, these majalis Husseini prove its benefits on the day of judgment. Again, if you refer back to this hadith of Imam al-Sadiq with Masma' in Kamil al-Ziyarat, Imam al-Sadiq describes to Masma' on how the Shias and those who have wept for Imam al-Hussein on the day of judgment, they will approach the river of Kawthar and they will see Amirul Mu'mineen standing by the pond of Kawthar, and those who have wept for Imam al-Hussein will be quenching their thirst. Contemplate on this. May Allah grant each and every one of you an opportunity to go for endless number of ziyaras in your life, inshallah. But for those who have gone for ziyarah, can you sit back for a moment and reminisce? Just recall to your mind the emotions that you experience when you see the Qubba of Amirul Mu'mineen in Najaf for the first time. When you see the Dhari of Amirul Mu'mineen and you enter into this Muqaddas place and this golden dome with the golden minarets, and you enter into the Haram of Amirul Mu'mineen and you feel this awe and you feel this grandeur and you feel a level of pride that this is my Mawla, who Rasulullah raised his hand and said, "Man kuntu Mawla fahada aliyun Mawla." This is that Amirul Mu'mineen that I love. This is that Amir that I love with every ounce of my being. And you're overcome with this joy and this happiness. and you become nervous at the same time because he's Qasimul Jannah wan Nar. But I also have hope that when he's the divider of heaven and hell, he will not abandon me because I love him. You are overcome with this. All of this, when you saw the Qubba of Amir and you saw the Dhari of Amir, now imagine what you will experience when you see Amir al-Mu'mineen himself in flesh and blood on the Day of Judgment. To look at Amir al-Mu'mineen is one thing. To drink from Kawthar is one thing. But to drink from a cup that comes from the hand of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Allah, that is Jannah. That is the real Jannah. For Shabab, prepare yourselves and embrace this institution of Majlis and Azhar with everything that you have. And remember, there is nothing like an inconvenience in a Majlis Imam al-Hussein. It's an honor for you to be inconvenienced by a Majlis Husseini. It is an honor to undergo through hardship or difficulty in order to attend and arrange a Majlis Imam al-Husseini. And inshallah with this, there comes a time where all of you, Shabab of Manchester, we are able to enter into Jannah together, and before that pledge allegiance to Imam al-Hussein in Karbala with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ahibai, tonight is the first night of Shahr Muharram. We have a narration that mentions, for you to realize the value of this night as you recite your Salatul Maghrib and you head back towards your homes. The narration mentions that when the moon is sighted for the first night of Muharram, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the angels and the malaikah to fly and traverse the skies of this earth with the blood-stained shirt of Imam al-Hussein. And if you were to look at the skies on a night like this with the vision of your heart, you will see how your heart is overcome with grief. There is grief in the air that you breathe, and there is grief in the skies above us. The hadith goes on to say, and when this blood-filled shirt of Imam al-Hussein is paraded across the skies, the first one to cry out is Sayyida Fatima al-Zahra. Imam al-Sadiq Ruhi lahu al-Fida says that when Sayyida Fatima al-Zahra looks at this blood-stained shirt of Imam al-Hussein, she cries out in such a manner. The grief within the heart of Sayyida Fatima al-Zahra, he says that grief is so painful that the flames of Jahannam want to leap out of their gates. The narrations mention that on the Asr, on the day of Ashura, when the body of Imam al-Hussein lay on the plains of Karbala, the body of Imam al-Hussein, and in which manner? It says the body of Imam al-Hussein that has been broken into pieces as the horses were trampled upon them. This body of Imam al-Hussein where the head has been severed by Shimar and by Khuli, the head of Sayyid al-Shuhada being paraded on one side, the tents of the women have been burnt on the other side, landing onto the earth. There were men who were filled with nur. They were rushing towards the headless body of Abu Abdullah, and as they were running towards Imam al-Hussein, he says, I saw a woman dressed in black between the women running towards Imam al-Hussein. Allah, Allah, he says, I was filled with fear and I was filled with grief. So I went behind and hid behind I hid behind in a distance from the lifeless body of Abu Abdullah. He says, I saw the women run forward. This woman, the hadith says, فَرَمَتْ نَفْسِهَا عَلَى جِثَةِ الشَّرِيف. This woman threw herself on the body of Imam al-Hussein. Who is this woman? The man goes on to say, she cried out. She said, Wa abata. She cried out, oh my father. Then she looked at the body of Imam al-Hussein. She said, Wa madhluma. Oh the oppressed one. Wa maktula. Oh the one who has been killed in the most vicious of ways. He says, I was thinking, who is this woman? I went a little bit closer to hear what she is saying. He says, I heard the woman say, Ya waladi ya Hussein. Oh my son, oh Hussein, I am your mother Zahra. I am your mother Zahra. He says, I heard Sayyidah Zahra say, Kallimni, speak to me, my son Hussein. The man says, as soon as Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra threw herself on the body of Imam al-Hussein, there was another man who came running behind her. He threw himself at the feet of Imam al-Hussein. He cried out, he says, I'm wondering who is this person. He says, I heard him cry out, Ya Aba Abdullah, Ya Gharib al-Ghuraba, Ana akhuka al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. I am your brother Hasan al-Mujtaba. What did they do to you, my brother? He says, Sayyidah Zahra and Imam Hasan al-Mujtaba are weeping at the body of Imam al-Hussein. All the other divine men are weeping for their grief. He says, at that point, he says, فَسَمِعْتُ صَوْتًا يَا شِيعَةَ Muhammad. No, he says, فَسَمِعْتُ صَوْتًا. I heard the voice come out from the body of Imam al-Hussein. Allah. But Imam al-Hussein is beheaded. The head is on a spear somewhere else. How is it that the body is speaking? The Rawi says, I went closer. He says, I heard the voice come out from the nahar of Imam al-Hussein. Do you know what is the nahar? The nahar is the part of the neck where the head was separated from the body. He says, I heard the voice come out from there. Imam al-Hussein says, Ya Ummah, oh my mother, they beheaded me. They beheaded me while I was thirsty. Oh my mother, they beheaded me by severing my neck from the back of my head. Matam ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Mil ke Ram Maula, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Hayya ala khairil amal, hayya ala khairil amal, hayya ala khairil amal, hayya ala khairil amal. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. करबला वालों पे ये क्या